Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Florida Man, Season 1, Episode 5. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's actually a very heartbreaking and cathartic episode in so many regards. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with opening. Now we have full context about Deli, and it is pretty much who I thought it was. So the person she was talking to on the phone, like, say, I love you too, it's like, it's her mom. So I figured this had to have something to do with, like, taking down Moss and his family. It's because her dad committed suicide, which I was like, I don't think she brought that up to Mike, which, holy crap, those parallels. And how much of an effect that sent them down their respective roads. But Deli's in all of this because she wanted to get revenge. When she found out about the mobster her dad owed money to, and that mobster, because that's why the money came from, like, loans he was getting from this mobster, and it ended up being Moss's dad. And I was like, oh, so Moss's dad is the guy she pointed the gun at, because I was like, it probably had to be like Moss's dad. There's no way it was actually Moss, right? Turns out, we find out later on, it was in fact Moss. But she ended up showing up on the day that, well, at least the service for Moss's dad, who had just died. She was going to show up there with a gun and everything, but had to toss it in the bushes, and ended up bumping into Moss. And so I guess she got close to him for the purposes of she was trying to dismantle the family. Not unless it's a thing of maybe she didn't know Moss took after. It's hard to say what Deli knew ahead of time, because she's like, wait, you're his son, but maybe she saw a little more sensitivity in him, so she didn't think he was the monster that his dad was. And so maybe she legitimately did start liking him, but then he references that night. He's like, oh, the last time I was in Chicago was when the Cubs won or whatever, and it turns out it was the same night because she thought, oh, the person that killed my dad was his dad. It's like, no, Moss is the one. Which you also say, once again, Moss has got the most short-sighted thing. Once again, my understanding, but I guess it's, once again, the whole messaging thing, but my whole understanding is you don't kill the people that owe you money. I mean, that's me basing that on tons and tons of crime dramas I've watched where mobsters are like, I didn't do it. What kind of mobster idiot would I be to kill someone that owes me money? Unless there's other extenuating circumstances. But like I said, Moss must be setting an example to anyone that's ever in a situation. Don't cross me. Who knows how his dad ran things? I mean, Moss is kind of a short-sighted, easily angered idiot, so it could easily we see with Deli's dad, we also see with Gil that he just kind of flies off the handle and does stuff. So that's why Dutch kind of agreed with Mike last episode, where he was like, okay, I understand why you not want to tell Dutch. I mean, but you don't want to tell Moss before you really find anything out. But now we get the context of it was in fact Moss who she pointed the gun to, and she had every right to. It's like, you're actually the one that killed my dad, not even your dad's dad. Not even your dad's the one who did it. And it seems like with the culmination of she picked up the coin, she ended up taking the money. I would assume that was the night, like, she was going to pack up and run. But maybe she had that as her go bag, and she was going to wait till the next day because he woke up and gave her the car, and that's when she left. So, because I was about to say, if we look, we see that dinner they had for her birthday, that was her, like, sitting across from him, was making the drink. I think that's what's supposed to be that scene at the very beginning of the episode. So it's like, oh, she's known for a minute. So for her, it's just like, I'm not going to, like, waste another time. Like, I have this, which will destroy them, so I'm going to go find this goal, and I'll be able to disappear with my mom. Like, we'll never have to worry about money, and we'll be able to stay away from Moss so he can never sick people on us, because we could potentially be witnesses. But I can also add this flash drive, which could be the end of him and everything. Dismantle everything. And obviously that will severely screw up his sister, who wants to handle things more legitimately, which I think is so interesting. I'm curious if she's going to circle back in the story, because we got introduced to that storyline element, but it's never circled back. So that's just kind of like a plot thread that's out there that maybe it won't get resolved or really utilized in any capacity, or maybe it will. We'll have to wait and see. Still like 2 more episodes after this, so. But either way, that's kind of heartbreaking. That's why I'm like, I don't know if she was legitimately just trying to get close to him just to dismantle everything, or whether she legitimately fell for him. I feel that hard. I find that second one hard to believe. I think it's like, how can you really get, like, you have to be getting close to Moss just for the purpose of trying to, like, dismantle that organization, like, trying to make them suffer like you've suffered. But, like, once again, it's a different thing knowing for a fact he's the one that killed your dad. At least you're like, well, your dad's killer is dead, is what you thought, and you can't get revenge, but now the person's right here. You could have easily pulled the trigger, but not easily, because she couldn't pull the trigger when the time came, and it's a good thing she didn't, because she would have ruined her entire life for that purpose. But I think for her, it's like all she has left. I mean, she even said it previously in an episode where it's like when she was talking to Eric, saying like she doesn't have anything, so this is all she has going for her. So much like Mike, she's making the biggest gamble of her life, and who knows if it's going to pay off. Which, since we're still on that subject of Deli, let's focus on Iris, who shows up to talk to Deli, and it's like, oh, okay, so you're the ex-wife cop. So I was like, oh, so you do know that. Once again, not unless that's a conversation that happened off screen, but it's like, oh, she found out about Iris, but I was like, oh, did you not? Like I said, I don't know if that's something of like Mike was still married when they were doing their thing, or it's like, why didn't you tell me you were married? It's like, I guess like with all our fooling around, it's like, do we really know much about each other? Because he definitely doesn't know about why you're there with Moss. So it is that thing of like, the sad thing is you both are kind of, once again, caged canaries in your own regard, but you don't know each other's circumstances, the past that each of you have, so. But Iris, it's like, right. So Deli and Mike all have alibis, and also like she knows Moss wouldn't do it. She knows Dutch is the one that killed, she knows that Dutch is the one that killed Gil, but she's probably not mentioning Dutch by name because it's like, well, the last thing I want you to do is look for Dutch because you won't be able to find Dutch because he just blew himself up. And I love that even, it's like, yeah, Florida man. And it's like, of course, with the Caitlin Fox stuff. I love that. So, that's kind of been taken care of. They did find Dutch's ID. So what ends up coming about that, we'll see. But so it's like, it's not like she can hand over the killer anyway. She has an idea it's Dutch, but she probably doesn't know for sure that it's Dutch. She did kind of decide that she was going to hand Iris the evidence, because it's like, right, I'll give you this, allow me to get my gold, and then I'll give me 24 hours to disappear. And it's also like, so you get out of Florida and just leave us alone, because she was trying to tell her like, okay, you're mixed up with Mike, you were sleeping with Mike, that's your alibi. But the fact of the matter is, this beautiful love story of yours, but realize you're in a threesome relationship. She's like, I should know because I was too, because it's not just you and Mike, it's also his addiction. So either run while you have the chance, or you're going to hope those slots keep paying off, It's kind of her perspective. And I think it has resonated with Deli, especially considering like Mike didn't want to get involved in all of this. He did for her sake. And even she's like, I don't want Mike getting hurt because obviously he's going to protect you. That's what he came here to do in the first place anyway. Well, not came here necessarily to do. He came here to track you down. But in the process, like, he wants to protect you. He's kind of going above and beyond. But it's also because there is the incentive of all the gold. So. And Iris is obviously skirting outside the lines for what she's able to do, because she bugged Iris. Iris ended up bugging Deli's pocketbook, and it's like, well, you are not in Philly, so you actually have no authority here, which is also interesting. That's another cop on quote unquote vacation, her and Greg's character. But you think by now I'd learned that character's name, but it's like, yeah, you need to put in like a request to do stuff like that. You have to do it legally. Like, it's super illegal what she did. Because I also don't know if Florida's one of those places where you're allowed to, well, that's a listening device. I don't know if it's necessarily being recorded, because because California is one of those places, like, you need both parties' permission to record something. Because I remember that being a whole thing. I won't go into it, but it was like a whole like celebrity thing. I won't even reference the example I was about to use, but I don't know if Florida is one of those places you only need one person's side of things to like record something. Like I said, I don't even know it's being recorded. It still doesn't change the fact that she did that super illegally, especially as a cop. So she's still in the wrong here. But for her, it's like, this is the only way she's going to get out any information. And her talk with Mike later on, he's keeping her in the dark. And for her, it sucks because she does still care about him, but it's like, right, we're back to where we were in our marriage. You're lying to me for whatever reason. It's like, right, I didn't kill Gil. You know that. I know that. I did come down here to help out with the Deli thing, but it's like, right, what'd you find on Gil's boat? empty boxes of rifles. What else? It's like, nothing else. And say she knows about the gold, but she's not letting Mike know that she knows about the gold. So we'll see where things kind of go from there. And since we're on the Mike thing, obviously him, Ray, Buzz, and Sonny went to try and like they're trying to get to that the truck at the bottom of the sinkhole, because it's like, right, we got till tomorrow before they come in and fill it in, so we have to strike while the iron's hot. We have to strike now. But I love, what was it, Buzz being like, all right, so what's your favorite movie in the past 10 years that doesn't include a minion? All right, fine, I'll start. And then it turns out there's like a meeting nearby. So Sonny and Mike end up going, and to kind of distract the people for a while, Mike ends up telling them about, and obviously this is like, and this is what I wanted. This was, I was like, eventually they'd probably have this, storytelling wise, you knew they'd have this moment, but I wasn't expecting it under these circumstances. But Mike, like, is very open about circumstances. He's like, my mom had cancer and she died, but those are two separate things. She had cancer and she died. My mom killed herself. You're like, Jesus. It's like she blew her own brains out using my dad's personal gun, and to protect my sister from finding out about seeing it, because I guess even to this day, Patsy still doesn't know the truth. And now part of me wonders, we'll get to the Patsy stuff later, but now part of me's wondering, does Patsy actually know, and is that why she goes so above and beyond for Mike? Because I doubt Sonny ever told her the truth, but maybe she's got a good head on her shoulders, so she probably ended up figuring it out on her own. So that's probably why she wants Mike around so much. That's why she's willing to do what she's doing this episode for Mike, because it's like, hey, your family, you've been away for so long, but maybe she also knows what he did, what he had to deal with, and like what kind of trauma that left him with. But it's like, yeah, because his mom did it in the bathtub, didn't want to make a mess, and it wasn't Sonny who had to clean it up. It was a 13-year-old Mike. That is traumatizing. And of course, like when you combine that with everything else, that it was Dad's personal gun. My dad's always been good about locking it up, but he didn't in this time, and it cost my mom her life. And when he kept the gun, he put it right back in the safe and just moved on. And for Mike, it's that thing of, I didn't see him suffering. He didn't seem like he was hurting, but he was. Because that's the thing. Everyone suffers and hurts in their own way. A lot of people, and you can tell Sonny's the type of person who buries that stuff. And now we kind of get to the heart of why Mike has such heavy resentment for his dad. So he opens up about, like, right, you didn't know about your mom's circumstances, which I love. He was talking like, funny enough, he was talking from it like, oh, they weren't related, which I love that one lady leaning in, oh, I think they're related. And the guy's like, kind of nodded his head, just kind of telling her, let's sit and finish. But that was like a heartbreaking story to hear. But even from Sonny's perspective, it's like, you had no idea how unimaginable your mom's pain was, and she was begging me to, kill her, but I couldn't do it. So I made the hard choice because I couldn't do it. I left my gun unlocked and before she could get it, and I went to work like it was any other day. But the entire time I'm sitting at my desk, I'm knowing my wife is at home potentially killing herself right now, and the moment I get home, she's going to be dead, and I have to live with that choice I made, a choice that I can never take back. I am not only like losing the woman I love more than anyone in the world and ever will, I'm also like because he wasn't expecting Mike to get home that early. He expected to be the one to have to clean it up. But it's like, it is that sad thing where it's like, because for Sonny, it's like, you needed someone to kind of like take that hatred out on, like, what would you have if you didn't have all that hatred? To me, I'm like, I thought what was going to happen I thought Mike was going to have almost like his invincible moment, his Mark moment of, you, Dad, I'd be the son that has his father or something like that. Obviously, that's not the direct, like, but I'm saying I thought Mike would say something of that. Not like, what would you be? And it's like, your son. I thought that's what Mike was going to say. I was waiting for it. That's why I referenced Invincible, because I thought we were going to have something like that, but no. At the end of the day, though, it was super cathartic to the point it's like, oh, maybe we should get lunchtime sometime, or like, beer. And it's like, he's like, no, yeah, no problem. Because I can't forget, like, a really crucial, important part to that too is, once again, it plays into Mike's character of doing bad things, but still trying to be a good guy, believing you're a good guy. And for for Sonny, he says, your mom was the best person in this world. She was the best person. And even is like, I've never like questioned who I was. I've always known I was a scumbag. I'm a bad person. I never thought like I was better than anyone else. I just wanted you to be better than me, you know? Because for him, it's like, there are no good people in this world. I accept me for who I am. I just wanted you to be a better person I am because I'm stuck in my way, but there was a chance for you. But sadly, once again, just life throws its curveballs at everyone. So that is really heartbreaking. But like I said, it was very cathartic. I love they found out about Bodhi the dog. It's like, wait, you taxidermy Bodhi? It's like, well, yeah. Well, I thought Mom said like he died. It's like, well, he did, but we told you he kind of went off to heaven. But it's like, yeah, I was never the religious person. I don't believe in God, so I believe in taxidermy. So that's the reason Bodhi was like the best dog in the world. So we kept him around. So there's that element to it. We have your boy Moss showing up in Florida, because of course he would, looking for Dutch. Stopped by Dutch's place, nothing. He ends up stopping by the hotel, ends up attacking Benny. So, and at that same time, Clara's finding a flash drive, which I'm like, oh boy. I wonder has she checked it yet? Because her and her husband are just trying to make it do. It's like, right, if we're not careful, that's why they don't want trouble their way, because she talks about it. Like, if my husband goes to the hospital, they'll find out about our status and we'll be deported. So it's like, okay, so you're trying to stay super below the radar, but Mike kind of brought all this BS into your life. And so Clara sees this as, I think she's found that flash drive. I don't know if she saw what's on it, but she kind of made it clear. She was telling her husband, like, we need to stick to our planet, like, you know, the American dream. Clara does get in contact with Mike, and obviously she doesn't know Moss's name, but she knows enough to be like, hey, this guy who smells like Vicks baby rub, because he puts it on because it reminds him of his mom, which his mom had died previously too, because I don't remember if he explained how she died. Because the moment he got the gold coin, he knew this had to deal with like Gil and stuff like that. So it's like, okay. So I wonder, did he know that Deli had it? Because it's like, why would he go into the next room over and find Deli? That's what I'm so confused by. Like, how would he know to even go check that out? Which is so interesting, because now he knows, hey, Deli's alive. She lied to me. Plus I know you're on this trip because of this gold thing. Maybe that was enough. Maybe he knew she had it and picked it up, and maybe she talked to him about it. So the moment he saw it, because Clara and Benny's son Samuel ended up taking it from Mike's room, so he immediately recognized it as a coin of like, if it's not, I mean, obviously he probably thinks like, I saw someone bring it up recently about the gold coin, so he must have known that that's what Mike and Deli are doing behind his back. Like I said, I don't know if Deli questioned him about it, because she overheard the conversation with Gil, and like I said, what would just make him decide to go to the next room over? And I don't know. Maybe, I guess he would probably ask Samuel about it, and then it's kind of like, I don't know. We'll have to, not Samuel, but Benny. Probably ask Benny about it. Benny's going to be a little more forthcoming with information, considering, yeah, last time you bashed me in the head, bashed my head open with a mellow yellow. And finally, another angle to this episode is Patsy's side of things, which I feel so bad for Patsy, because it's a complicated thing where it's like, hey, I'm a mother. And she opened up to Jason's mom about like, hey, we're both mothers. I get that. And then, she ends up opening up to her about like, right, her relationship with her own daughter, of like how like, oh my God, it seems like she hates me. She wants to be an astronaut, but not just for the sake of, having ambition. It's just so she can get as far away from me. It's like, and then, the back and forth, and it's like, I get it, mothers and their teenage daughters, but it's like, should it really be this hard? I feel like we do see later on that her daughter, that Patsy's daughter, is on the radio, and I think she was listening in on these conversations. Like, there was a married couple having an issue, but then like hearing them talk about their child and everything, I wonder, did that resonate with her at some level? Because I'm like, why does she have so much issues with her mom? Is she just at that teenage age where she's rebellious against her parents? Or maybe it's just a thing of listening to that family and having their struggles and working through it that made her kind of maybe appreciate her mom and dad a little bit more. It doesn't seem like she's necessarily with that. I mean, we don't know what her and Deacon's relationship is like, but her and Patsy seem to be like, there seems to be animosity there. But it almost seems like, well, it's almost reflective of just like Mike and their dad's relationship. So I don't know. But like I said earlier, like, I think that's why Patsy goes so above and beyond for Mike, is because of she probably knows more about her mom's circumstances than they let on, because they just told her, like, oh, her cancer took a turn for the worse, and that's why she died so suddenly, not telling her the truth about how she actually died. But either way, Patsy is pushing this mom to kill her son, which, you know, it's like, right, his organs could save so many other people, because it's like, right, my daughter sucks, she's kind of a screw up, but it's like, yeah, my son Jason's a screw up too, and it took him 3 times to pass the EMT test, but he did. And I don't want him to just be that, because if he dies now, that's all he'll ever be. He'll just be this kid who, like, his legacy would just be that he's a fuck up. And I get that. But, you know, Patsy, you know, you see the tears welling in her eyes, because she's like, I'm asking another mother to kill her child just so I can protect my brother. It's not like I'm having selfless reasons. I'm like, hey, his organs could go to other places. It's like, yeah, there's that. So there is some silver lining of like, oh, those organs could go to help people. But I'm also, my main motivation, once again, going by Good Place standards, no matter what good you might be doing, it's completely turned away. Like it doesn't count when it's all done for bad reasons, when you're doing it for selfish reasons. And she is doing it for a selfish reason, even if it was her brother, but it's helping her brother with some crime stuff. So, but you can tell like how hard that like hurts. And it actually, you actually legitimately feel bad for Jason, because it's not like Jason's a bad dude. He just had the unfortunate situation of being chosen by Deli. And even then, I wouldn't even be like, this is on Deli. It's like, well, she didn't have the choice to kind of fake her death when she found out Mike was here. Yeah, that's one thing, but Deli's not responsible. Once again, Florida's responsible for what happened. The elusive Florida man, one of many we've gotten introduced to over the course of this series, was responsible for what happened to Jason. But it's like, once again, it's just chicken and egg situation of like, well, he wouldn't have been in that situation in the first place if it wasn't for Deli. It's like, well, she wouldn't have been in that situation in the first place if it wasn't for Mom. So it's just, you know, it always kind of like, once again, the starting point keeps always adjusting to what really popped off everything. Once again, it's just, because it isn't just one start. There are so many starting points for all these different characters that have led to all these stories converging in this moment. So, well, like, cause I kept being like, well, Mike's start was probably kind of the start of everything because of his gambling addiction. But it's like, yeah, he had his start. Iris had her start. Deli has her start. Sonny has his. Moss has his. And Patsy has hers. So it's like all these stories culminating because all these different people have different starts that are all convalescing in this series, the storyline of this series. So they take Jason off the tubes and it's like, right, he's going, but then he starts breathing again and it's like, oh, maybe it's just the drugs in his system that's keeping him going. So it's like, oh, is he going to be alive for a few more days? It's like maybe a miracle can happen and he can survive. And Patsy can't get in touch with Mike, so she decides to take matters into her own hands. She plans on trying to kill him herself. But that's the last thing we see with Patsy, so we don't know if that's actually the case. It could be that Patsy at the last second, and that might have actually been the very end of the episode, the last shot of the episode, if I remember correctly. But it's going to be interesting to see, like, because it's like, regardless of it all, Mike should have never put Patsy in this whole place. Like, he shouldn't have never put his sister in such a compromising position, but he did, so where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode, I'm so excited. It's the penultimate episode of the series. Like I said, 2 episodes to go to see how this ultimately all gets wrapped up. I'm so excited to see. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.